Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest, a model, a cosplayer, a former professional wrestler. She has been a podcaster. She's a former JAPW World Tag Team Champion, a former 3PW Tag Team Champion, former WXW Women's World Champion, Miss April Hunter. Welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
So what have you been up to? Very, very busy, but what's been going on in your world?
Well, travel's starting to pick up, so I'm starting to get ready to get out there and do a few appearances, and then, doing the podcast, the A Show. So that's going. Just trying to keep a toe in every ocean with websites and writing and candle making and on Etsy and all kinds of stuff. So it's keeping me a little too busy. I feel overwhelmed sometimes, but yeah.
You got too much going on now.
Yeah, probably. But it's good. I'm grateful for it. It's good.
So what's going on with the A Show? How's everything going with Aaron Stevens?
Good. We started that show because we all, everybody kind of lost their appearances for the year. And we were trying to figure out what our options were to kind of stay out there a bit. And he and I we went to school together, went to Killer Kowalski's together and have known each other for like 20 something years. And he and I will get on the phone. We've been like best friends. We'll talk about these deep esoteric conversations about everything or current events or spirituality or wrestling and like everything, everything. We'll pick it apart. And finally, I'm just like, why are we not doing this on a show? Because we could get two birds stoned at once. We could have a presence on the internet and do this every week. And we could, talk about all the things going on in the world and maybe solve a few problems. And maybe there are other people out there just like us that are just weird and overthink things. Watch butterflies and go, I wonder how long it took them to get out of that cocoon and where is the cocoon?
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
He's an outside the box thinker, just like you.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So I take it you've interviewed him before or been aware of his.
Yes, 3 times actually I've interviewed him. Yes, great guy. Great guy.
He's there's definitely different than he appears to be. Yeah.
Yes, great guy though, for sure. Great interview too.
Yeah.
He's always got something good, little tidbit to throw out there. Something good.
That he does. Yeah, that he does. Mm-hmm.
So how's it going for the show? Like, how is I know obviously you guys are on Patreon. You guys are part of the HMG group, as am I. So how's it going with that?
We are grateful to have gotten on HMG. It's I think, well, first off, it's sanity for us. So we're happy that people come every week and are subscribing. We just hit, what do you call it? When you hit enough people on Twitch that you can get
affiliate.
Monetized. Affiliate. We just hit that tonight. So I got a text right before joining you. So I was like, yeah, because we're not making money off of this really. So it's like, we're doing it because we love it. But it's really difficult to grow, I think, a podcast right now because everybody has one. So, it's kind of, not only does everybody have one, then more people kind of joined in and started doing that with COVID too. Like everybody turned to the internet. So, it's the fact that it has grown when in such a kind of oversaturated situation. I feel extremely grateful and happy for what we've gotten so far. So yeah.
Now you guys don't live near each other, right? He lives on one side of the U.S. and you live on the other, right?
Yeah, I'm in Florida. He's in California.
Wow. So how does it to make it difficult at all, like recording? Because obviously different time zones and everything else. No,
because he's a morning person. I'm a night person, so it ends up working out. So I always joke around and say I'm on Hawaii time anyway. So, which most people will come back and just be like, "You're just on April time."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's cool because we live in different areas and we see things differently. He lives in California's a very liberal state, and they dealt with things differently with all of this than Florida did. Florida was a very conservative state or Republican state. And I'm very surprised that people aren't looking to Florida more as kind of an experiment, because we were like one of the only places in the entire world that stayed open.
Yep.
And I think that is kind of a spiteful thing. Like, nobody wants to admit that, the place that has their own hashtag Florida man actually did something okay. We actually did something right. So they're not wanting to go, I see that, I don't see the numbers, I don't see anything, and they don't want to use us for anything.
Right. It's so funny how it got ignored, because my buddy and
ignored.
My buddy and his wife lived down there. They were like, everything is fine. DeSantis is ignoring Fauci. He's doing his own science. He's got his own scientist. Yep. And he came up here and he goes, oh, crap. I forgot my mask. Like, him and his wife, like, oh, we got to go back in the house and get the mask, because they were staying here for vacation. And I was like, you guys never wore masks? He goes, literally never wore a mask, never did anything. He goes, this is completely foreign to me. I was like, oh, well, carry your mask.
It's weird. Yeah. Because, Aaron actually was out here for like 2 weeks for a vacation. He just went back and he came here. He's like, oh my God. He's like, it's like COVID never happened down here. I'm like, I know. He's like, I can't get over this. He's like, the LA is, or, California is still really, really, we're opening up and it's not like this. I'm like, well, we had like a month. We had like the month of April and that was it. After that, DeSantis promised he would never shut down again. And being a tourist state, that was helpful because a lot of businesses were able to survive. Now we ran it, half full or 30%, or they did. We did actually where I live. Now Tampa Bay is a little different than each county governed their own, and there are some counties that did no masks at all. Where I live, everything was masked. Everything was the 6-foot rule. We abided by all the COVID things, but everything stayed open. You could, use the boat launches, go out kayaking, the parks were open, sidewalks were open. All that stuff was not open. You couldn't even get on the beach in California. So, yeah.
Weird. And California is doing a lot worse than Florida with the numbers and everything else. So very strange. It feels like Florida did the right thing. It was doing the right thing the whole time.
Yeah. I fought against it. I thought it was real stupid, actually. I thought it was like, this is bad. This is really bad. I can't believe this is happening. And then, every week, every month was more of a learning curve for all of us. And then I was just like, oh, we're all going to die. I was like, this is going to be so bad. And then as time went on, I was like, okay, this is not so bad. And then as time went on a little bit more, I'm like, I am so grateful that I live in Florida right now. Oh my God. So, the only time we had really bad numbers is when everybody was fleeing their states, like the really, really infected ones, like New York and California.
Yes.
They were fleeing their states and coming here because everybody has a relative in Florida and they all knew we were open. And it was like still cold up there. So we were doing pretty well. And then we got hit really hard with everybody coming down here. And they
transplants. Yep.
They weren't shutting the borders. It was still spring. They were still allowing spring breakers to come in. So that was happening. That's when we got hit hard, and it lasted about 2-ish months to a little bit longer than that. That was during the WrestleMania and all that time. And then after that, it kind of leveled out, and then
Yeah, then they were running shows and everything else. I know Disney was probably, I think, 35% capacity, and then they moved up with far as what they were doing. But man, Florida and Texas kind of were like the normalcy, and everyone was saying that they're crazy, but they actually turned out to be the normal ones.
Yeah, crazy is subjective. I mean, normal subjective. I mean, if you grow up in the circus, you think the circus is normal. That's
true.
Having an elephant as a plaything is normal for you. So we use the word normal very liberally when we might want to rethink that word sometimes.
Yes, for sure. Even me, I gotta realize that. With
I do too.
with Fauci and those emails, though, I mean, that's kind of not good. And reading some of those.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow some of the stuff that I write, but I have been talking about this stuff long before it actually happened. Because I do a lot of pattern predictions way out, and like I was probably the only person not surprised. So
right. I thought it was kind of alarming that DeSantis, it was like, yeah, let's not listen to this crazy old guy. And it's like, oh, why is he saying that? And he turned out to be right not to listen to that crazy old guy.
Yeah, for me, I don't subscribe to any political party at all. And I was pretty stunned by how politicized all of it got. It was like, this should not be politicized. This is literally a case of life and death for a lot of people, and politics should not have anything to do with it. And a virus does not give a shit what party you are. This is, I was, it started out, it started out a pandemic, and it became an IQ test, and it was
Yep.
pretty depressing for me to see that. I was, I had not so much faith in humanity before, but I don't know how I feel about it now after seeing how that all went.
Yeah,
So
I
I
hate
think,
I hate politics too. It's just like, my God, why politicize that? I mean, that's scary.
yeah. Well, I think the reason is to keep people divided. The more divided we are, the more easily manipulated and conquered that we will be. I mean, we are in America here, we are a large and very armed country. If we ever decided to rise up and have a coup, it would take 3 or 4 minutes. And that's if we stop for a bathroom break and some donuts.
Right.
So there's a real serious vested interest in that not ever happening. And the best way to do that is by using media. I mean, all of our media is controlled by just 6 corporations, and those corporations are in bed with politics, and they can tell us and sell us and fear us and steer us any way they want, right?
Yep.
So keeping us at each other's throats, I mean, that's historically worked bajillion times, like those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. So Rome, that's how they tore apart Rome. It was the most advanced culture ever, largest army, everything, and it imploded. So, I think we're like in a Cold War too, with Russia and China, and they're contributing to our media as well. That's just my insane ramblings, though. So.
I agree. The media, both sides are the devil, left and right. It's just, you can't watch either one. It's just, I don't know. I hate politics, but man, it's like the media sometimes, they are out to brainwash you. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I don't even know if there is a left and a right. I think it's a lot like pro wrestling, where everybody works together to make it appear to be a left and a right.
Baby faces and heels.
Yeah, if you go and if you watch where the lobbyists go, they go to all the conventions. They go to both sides, so they're all working together. It's just us. We're getting played. We're getting manipulated. We play into that, by not talking to your family, by fighting with your friends, unfriending your, best friend and stuff. Like, we're allowing ourselves to be manipulated instead of uniting and seeing it for what it is. It's unfortunate that we're this dumb.
Yep.
So.
Now, speaking of pro wrestling, what was your first kind of foray into wrestling? Was it with WCW when you were with,
it was.
Like the NWO girls, right?
Yeah. I got hired. Actually, I got hired out of Playboy, and went in and had my interview, and they hired a handful of us to come on, and basically for eye candy, but they didn't know what to do with us. So then the Steiner birthday party thing happened, and we popped out of a limo, and after that we were graciously named the NWO Hoes.
It was you, Pamela Paulshock, I think Medeja and Shakira, right? It was you four?
And Tylene Buck.
And Tylene Buck, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the interview with? Is it with Nash, Bischoff? Like, who'd you guys do the interview with?
Oh, originally? It's Terry Taylor, I believe. Yeah.
And obviously you ended up being on TV with the NWO. What did you kind of think of, I know you said NWO Hoes and stuff, but what did you think of that role? Do you think it was a nice way into the business, or you were like, okay, this is just a paid gig?
I thought, okay, it's just a paid gig. I was coming from the fitness industry. I was under contract with Metrics and working for Iron Man, and I didn't know anything about wrestling. I didn't care anything about wrestling, actually. I didn't grow up really watching it. I was more of a MMA fan because I grew up doing martial arts, and I always thought wrestling was just loud, colorful, and fake. It wasn't until I actually got to WCW and I was, we had to check in at 1 o'clock. The shows were much, much later. And I would sit around the ring because, I mean, you're trapped there basically, and there's only so much you can do backstage. That I would watch the cruiserweights go over their matches and work on some things and train. And I was just like, that's pretty freaking athletic. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. They're doing all the tumbling. And I'm like, that's like gymnastics. That's awesome. That's when I started to see it differently as kind of a legitimate athletic experience, I guess. Yeah.
So how long are you with WCW for?
Not long. I was only there a couple of months. They weren't using me. And I didn't have the patience to stick around. So
were you under contract?
Per show. So how it works in the modeling world, and excuse me, hang on. Simba, stop it. Stop. I have a cat that loves to push things off the table, including lighting and microphones.
Nice.
Yeah,
my cat always does
cat.
that. Like my Post-it notes or whatever, you get the pack of Post-it notes, like all of a sudden it's on the floor. You're like, what the hell?
Sometimes I got everything up here and he's going, psh, 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 psh. As I say, they say, how do you know the world isn't flat? It's because a cat would have pushed everything off of it by then.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So, okay. So hang on a second. Where were we?
WCW, you said per day, not a contract.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So how it works in the modeling world is in theory, you have X amount of time to make as much money as you possibly can. And at that point, I was pretty popular on the fitness circuit. So I was doing a lot with Muscle and Fitness and Ironman and Muscle Mag. And I was getting a lot of offers to do like their swimsuit issues and things like that. And I had to turn them down because they were shooting in Los Angeles at the same time that we were traveling with WCW. And I wasn't being used on TV for anything. So I'm traveling, because I lived in Nevada at the time, and going from Nevada to like Buffalo or Nevada out to, Ohio every week and not being used. And all I can see at that particular time is that they're filming and shooting the swimsuit edition of whatever magazine that's a collector's issue, and I'm not in it because I can't. And yet I'm not on TV either. And I felt like, push comes to shove, I would rather be back over here doing this while I can, because these people are idiots. So
right.
I'm not doing anything here. So I went to, previous to that, Terry came to me and said, would you have any interest in becoming a wrestler? And I was like, like in my head, I'm thinking, after watching it a while, I'm like, not really. That shit looks like it hurts. But I don't know, I probably growing up military, I kind of learned somehow to be political. I was like, maybe. Like, possibly. So he's like, yeah, I'd like to send you to Power Plant to learn, and I'm like, sure. So what happened was, shortly after that, when that did not come to fruition, I said to Terry, I'm like, dude, like, I'm not getting used here. And all I'm seeing are the opportunities that I'm being offered slip by, as part of my life is slipping by as well. Strike when the iron's hot kind of thing. So he's like, okay. He goes, here's what we're going to do. So he called Jim Ross and he said, we have a girl here. She is not under contract. You guys need to look at her. So Jim's like, okay, we have WrestleMania out in LA this year. We'll see her the day after. So I left WCW, did a few things, met with WWF at the time at the Staples Center, met with their writers. They said, go to Killer Kowalski's in Boston. They set it up.
Nice.
That was it was Playboy, WCW, Staples Center, Boston. So that was the path.
Did you have any idea?
That's where I met Aaron too.
Right. And I guess started training with him. Did you have any idea who Killer Kowalski was or what that school was?
Not a clue. Nope.
Just blind faith almost? Trusting? Like,
I looked him up.
You guys must know. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I looked him up. I was like, well, he's kind of a big deal, So I was kind of terrified. I was the only female there. There's a whole bunch of guys. Um, I went in with a lot of pomp and circumstance. There's like all these documentaries and news channels and New England Sports Network and MSNBC and this wrestling magazine, that wrestling magazine. They're all hovering around to take pictures and film it and do interviews and things like that. And like, this girl's gonna make it. And I was just like, oh my God, what if I don't make it? You know what I mean? It was a lot of pressure. So I started. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you like initially, like, okay, I kind of, I
No, I
kind of
hated
like
it.
this. Oh, you hate it? Okay.
Hated it. It was the most painful experience I have ever had. Wrestling training. There's a reason why there's a reason why people don't do it and why there's a high dropout rate. It feels like you've been through a really bad car accident, like all that whiplash, and then a really horrible, horrible, brutal CrossFit workout without warming up at the same time. So you've got all the muscle soreness and all the whiplash soreness going on at the same time. And nobody gives a shit. You need to get back in the ring because if you can walk, you can wrestle. So that's how it is. Tape up and go. Run the drills. So coming from, I mean, it was a lot easier to be athletic when all you had to do was look athletic. It was brutal. I was there for, let's see, I think I started September. We had a Christmas break. I left for the break and never went back. I was just like, this is not for me. I can't do it. It's just really hard. I got turf toe. Are you familiar with that? I had also pulled my groin. So I pulled my groin and got turf toe. I managed to get all the NFL injuries. I broke a finger. I was like, all these things that I used to laugh at. I'd be like, oh, you got turf toe. Suck it up. Oh, you pulled your groin. Suck it up. You lay on your back in the bed. You can't get up if you have a pulled groin. And that turf toe is miserable. I was just like, this is God's way of getting back at me for laughing at it by giving it to me so I feel empathy. So I didn't go back. And about 5 or 6 of the guys came to my apartment in Boston, bang on the door. They're like, where have you been at? And I'm like, here. They're like, why are you in class? I'm like, no. I'm like, because that shit's hard. And they're like, you're going to be the only one out of all of us that makes it. You need to get back. I was like, let me think about it for like another week. And I went back. So.
Nice. Were you still injured when you went back?
Yes, I was.
They take it any easier on you because you're injured or no?
Mm-mm. No, I ended up going back in and getting tutored because I was having a hard time with it. I was a professional dancer and a gymnast before, and it was just not natural for me to allow myself to fall. So there was a hockey player there, LB, from the Bruins. So he was having a hard time with it too. So it was me and Lyndon Byers doing tutoring before and after classes. So,
man, I know I've done some training before and taken bumps. It's a weird thing when you first start falling and your lungs. It's like doesn't make sense. You fall on your back, but like your lungs
shake.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, what the hell? And it was funny too because when we were bumping, it wasn't like a natural you're gonna fall over. He has somebody slide behind you, like almost like a prank. Somebody slide behind you and he pushes you. So all of a sudden you go back and you fall on your lungs. You're like, oh man. Like it's a little bit of a shock to the system at first.
It is. It really is.
I like that he did that because maybe not naturally, maybe you don't want to fall back, but since the person it's right behind your knees and you fell over them, you had no choice but to take a bump. So he's like, you want to do that?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, how we started was we would hold on to the ropes and squat down and just let go of the ropes and do it. That's not an ideal way to start falling back. So
right.
Yeah.
It's just like a funny thing because you're like, wait, why the hell my lungs are like shaking? What? And then
everything
you're like,
does.
yeah, it's like,
your
you get used to
shakes.
Then it's like, why do I have burns on my arms from the rope? Like, yeah, you start getting all sorts of weird injuries you never would think.
Really weird injuries. I had from the ropes aren't actually ropes; they're steel cable wrapped in tape.
Yep.
So I had on one side only, the side that hits the rope, built up scar tissue on my thigh that once I got out, I had to have removed because one side had like this like saddlebag on it and the other one didn't from going, hit in, out, in, out. And Aaron has it right here from hitting. So we all have it. We all have it somewhere. So you built up this weird callus.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone gets like a callus from it just because it's not a natural thing you keep running into. This cable or whatever it is. It's
steel cables.
Yep. So what'd you think about Killer Kowalski? Was he in the ring training with you, or is he one of those guys that's kind of he's watching?
He's usually watching. He'll get up. He would get up and come to the ring and say, try this, try this, try this. I really liked him. I found him to be eccentric, eclectic, really, really a great guy, really ahead of his time. Like he was into magnets and being a vegan and a raw vegan and using cayenne pepper and honey and doing all these things way before anybody else was doing it. Hot and cold showers, alternating, and like all the stuff that we all do now that we don't think about. He was doing it 25 years ago, 30 years ago. He was very spiritual, very, very spiritual. He was into metaphysics, like that New Age stuff, way before everybody else. Like, he was really good to me. He was good to most of us, I think, all of us actually. But he always used to take me aside and before class, if he had extra time, and he would say, if anybody tries to get fresh with you, try this, or if anybody grabs you in an alley, turn around and do this, or drop down and do this, or make sure you grab them this way, or this is where their pressure points are, and you can take them down this way. Or if you go to Japan and they try and shoot on you, do this. So he always made sure I was taken care of or knew things. So he was good to me.
Seems like obviously he's a bit older at this point too, so he's not going to be like rolling around with everybody in the ring.
No, he was in his he was 79, 80. Yeah.
Who is like in the ring training with you guys? Like, is it anybody we would know of as far as like names that's actually in the ring being a trainer with you guys?
You mean who I was running drills with and stuff?
Yeah. Yep. Like,
I was
usually there's like an older person, not older, but like a veteran usually in there training with you.
We had people come through all the time. Like Albert probably came through the most.
Okay.
God, who else came by? We had a couple, we had a lot of like Tim McNeely. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a very, very good wrestler. I don't think he got where he should have gotten, but he deserved to. Who else was coming through there? You put me on the spot, and my short-term my memory is like, it clears out like that. Like I was in a class with a group of people. Like we had a pretty good class. Like my group at that time was John Walters.
Oh yeah.
Aaron Stevens, Nick. I went the first year by myself, but then Nikki Rocks was there. Diehard Eddie Edwards. Sumie Sakai. She came shortly after Nikki did. So I had about the first year and a half as the only girl there, and then we got two more. That was Nikki and Sumi. Who else would you have known from there? There was a Jimmy Cash. He did some things, but yeah. But who came back?
Guessing not Triple H in China. I'm guessing.
No. Well, Triple H was busy, and for some reason, China always. We actually just talked about this on the podcast. I felt that her documentary is not accurate, and I felt that she's not the victim that she's portrayed to be. So I'm one of the few people. I'm one of the few people in the world, I think, that has had the fortune to both know Killer Kowalski and train there, and also work with China. So like I did a film with her, and I worked a couple conventions with her. So I'm familiar with both, and think that I think that she's not the victim that she was portrayed to be. I think that she was an unbelievable entertainer, and she broke down a lot of barriers, and she did it not using TNA. Um, she did it in a unique way, and she definitely left a mark. I mean, Ninth Wonder of the World, that's absolutely her. But I think she's a moneymaker, and I think even in death, she's a moneymaker. And I think the documentary is a moneymaker. And if that means portraying her as a victim that nobody reached out to help, that's what they're going to do. But I don't think that's the case. I think people just didn't like her because she was not likable. And that's going to make me unpopular to say that. But sometimes there are people that care about their careers and getting ahead so much that they don't care about making relationships, or they use people to get ahead. And you see the same people on the way down that you see going up. And there have been a lot of wrestlers that have gone the same way she did, with drugs, alcohol, having problems. And they've had hands reached out to them. Jake the Snake, Sonny, to name a couple.
Mm-hmm.
People have reached out to them to pick them up and help them. So, even WWE even paid for Sonny's rehab after she was done. She wasn't even there. They've done that quite a few times for people.
Yeah.
So to say that nobody was there and that she's a victim is not, I don't think, quite accurate. I think she's a victim of the choices that she made and the way she treated people. And that's why she ended up the way that she did. There's only so many times you can be like that to others, to where they're just like.
So what was your experience with her, though? Obviously negative, right?
It was nothing of really. She was just not really. She was very, very, very talented and not all there. And granted, a lot of people in the entertainment business, we all come from something. Most of us have had some kind of weird upbringing or something that makes us the way we are. But I guess maybe something was extra devastating for her. I don't know. But I don't know. But I think that she started off on the wrong foot immediately by trying to say that Walter didn't get her to where she is, because that's not true. If Walter says that he made a call to get her into the WWF, he did.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. He's not a liar. He talks a lot. He would repeat his stories a lot, but lying wasn't his thing. And he was a talent scout for WWF. And additionally, he charged a flat rate for his school. You were a lifetime student. You paid $17.50 up front and not anything else for the rest of your life. You could come back at any time and get in that ring. No dues, no fees, nothing. So whenever you want to come in and work on stuff with anybody, you could do that 4 years later, 5 years later, 2 months later. You could go all 4 classes every week for as long as you want on that same fee. So I wasn't trying to make money. So for her to say that she did it on her own and that he didn't help her, and then the documentary claims that her mentor tried to take credit for her job. And he's not a mentor, he's a trainer, without whom she wouldn't have been who she is. She wouldn't have had a job. That's kind of fucked up.
Right.
And that shows right off the bat what kind of character was there, unfortunately.
That's pretty.
And yes, she's not around to defend herself, but neither is Walter.
Pretty cheap, by the way, for the training. Only $17.50.
Yeah, at the time, that's what it was.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
I've heard of
Yep.
guys that didn't main event MSG multiple times against Bruno. You know what I mean? That charged way more, which is nuts. That he could have charged a lot more. Jeez, huge name.
It was unheard of to do it that way. Nobody has done it that way, I don't think. He felt that we were lifetime students, and that even if we were going off working shows, doing tours, we should always be able to come back and train. That you're a lifetime student in the wrestling business or in the wrestling industry.
Wow.
So
guys get mentioned on Seinfeld, you know, they're teasing like, I'm like Killer Kowalski. Like, yeah, he's a huge name in the business. He definitely could charge more if he wanted to. I mean, obviously he didn't want to, but he could have if he wanted to.
he could have, but he wanted people. He did it because he loved the business and he loved seeing people succeed. He wasn't there to rape people or make money or dick them over, or, you know what I mean? He was there because he liked it. He liked it. So that's what I mean. That's why I thought it was really unfair to, I don't know. So there.
It was interesting, and I never knew what happened. I don't know if you would know either, but like she was the women's champion, and then in 2001, then she's just gone, like just gone from WWE after that. Never, you know, obviously never to return. Kind of just weird circumstance all the way around. I'm sure Triple H, Stephanie, I'm sure something they were kind of intimating that they definitely played a role in that, but who knows, right? If you're saying she had poor attitude, maybe it was something else.
I don't know. Honestly, I know that in this business and in bands and in entertainment, if you break up with somebody, you get along with them because you have to. There's money involved. So there are lots of people who have dated people within the business who get along because you have to. You know, we can name a million broken up couples that have gone on to be fine in the same locker room. Freaking Fleetwood Mac. You know what I'm saying?
Macho Man and Elizabeth.
You just do. Yeah, you just do. It's called being professional. So if you're not able to do that, again, that's your choice and the way that you're handling things. So
different perspective here. I didn't, I never really hear the opposite side from China, but that is interesting that, you know, you kind of had some bad experiences with her.
It's because no one dares speak out against her. But after seeing it for years and years and years, and then now seeing the documentary and seeing what was or was not actually what was not said about Walter Kowalski, I got irritated to the point where I actually called Aaron last night, because Aaron, like I said, is a Kowalski student, and I went off and I was like, this is bullshit, man. Like no one's talking about it. No one steps forward. And I said, you know what? I'm in a unique position where I know both ends here. I'm gonna say something, and I'll probably get a lot of hate for it. But you know what? I'm okay with that. And I'm not taking away from what she did or who she was in the ring and her talent. She was incredibly talented and incredibly beautiful. And she could have done a whole lot more if she wanted to. So she could have been Jillian Michaels when she left.
Interesting, though, to get a different take, though. I like that. Appreciate the honesty there, because some people, when people pass away, some people just make it up like, yeah, they were great. They're like, oh, you know, but they killed somebody. Not to saying she did something horrible, but it's like, oh, but they killed somebody. No, they were great. You know what I mean? Sometimes some people will not speak ill of the dead. Yes. Even if they were bad. But when you leave Kowalski School, where do you land? What's next? Where do you go from there?
Where I went, well, actually, what happened was when I was there was mass chaos at that particular time, because that was when WWF had acquired ECW and WCW.
Yep.
So I was just getting ready to go and see where I fit in at WWE or F when all of that happened, and I got kind of shuffled to the sidelines because they were trying to figure out whose contracts they were keeping, who they were getting rid of, what was going on. So anybody who was not already under all of that was just like, we'll deal with you later. Like people got sent to Puerto Rico and left forever at that point. I think you probably remember those days, right?
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I started working Japan a lot, like a lot. So I was back and forth. I was Japan, Canada, England. So I was in England a lot. I was in Japan a lot. So I spent that year pretty much abroad. I actually spent the next several years going back and forth. I had another couple of tryouts. I did a Heartland tryout. They had asked if I would go to OVW with a developmental contract at one point, which at the time I declined. Then I had another tryout with them later in Connecticut. But yeah, it was like, got kind of lost in that shuffle and ended up working overseas, which worked out really great because I got to see the world on someone else's dime, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. What did you think about Japan? Was it a stiff, strong style, and did Walter
No.
kind of get you ready for it?
Yes. the where you go to school opens doors for you, for sure. So the fact that I went to Kowalski's, they, at that point, were not bringing over Western women. I think they only had one there. It was very, very rare for them to do that. So the fact that I was going back and forth and staying there, it was a big deal. I also ended up making a film over there and doing a commercial for Toyota and doing some other stuff while I was there too. I kind of got in Japan what I did not get here. So I joke around and say, I'm huge in Japan.
Yeah. Big in Japan.
I can't fit underneath the shower head because I'm too tall, but
Big in Japan, as that awesome song says.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. I liked Japan a lot. I don't know if I would want to live there full time, but I really did enjoy the country and the people and the culture. I've always kind of been obsessed with Japan. Like I grew up in that era where it was Kung Fu Theater and Karate Kid, the original one, and Japanese culture was like the thing, the rising sun. And, first chance I got an opportunity to run off to there, I was like, sayonara. So, yeah, so I enjoyed it.
What about over here? Were you wrestling doing the indies? Is that when you kind of started doing JAPW and,
yep.
3PW and
yep.
everything?
Yeah, I was trying to weave Jersey All Pro and 3PW in between my Japan and like Germany and France and England schedule. It was complicated because they had given me titles and I was just like, I love them for it. Absolutely love them for it. Jersey All Pro, I feel like they're like kind of my home fed, even though Kowalski really, his shows were our first shows. I feel like Jersey All Pro, they're the ones that actually gave me the wings and said, go fly. Because they let me do stuff that nobody did before, especially not the girls, They put the male tag team titles on me.
First ever.
Yeah, they were one of the first ones doing all women's shows. JAPWW. No one was doing that. They were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. They brought in all the Tough Enough kids. And, they spent the money to bring in the talent. Like, they don't necessarily get the credit they deserve. And they were doing it long before, like, Ring of Honor and all these other places were doing it. Like, they broke the doors open. And I was fortunate to be there at that time and kind of ride in with them with that. And I will always be grateful to them for that. That was a really good time for me to work, and I enjoyed it. But I was also, they put titles on me, and I'm trying to balance that out and go, to Puerto Rico or Mexico or Japan. It's like, fuck, I'm missing the shows. I'm trying to figure it out. So I remember going to them. I'm like, thank you so much for the titles. Can you please take them off? They're like, what? I'm like, I don't know how I can do this. Like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be there. I feel like I'm disappointing you. I don't know. I don't know how. I can't balance it. I don't know how to do this.
Right.
I want to work here. I just feel like how about I chase the titles? Why don't you let me chase the titles? So, yeah. So I remember my tag partner being really upset with me. He was like, how could you do that? Why would you go behind my back and do that? I'm like, I didn't really, they gave them to us. We didn't win them. I'm like difference does it make? So we're still a tag team. We're still working, So, yeah.
Like Wagner Brown.
Yeah.
Tag champ 3PW and JPW with him. First ever woman to be a male tag team champion anywhere. I mean, pretty cool. Pretty good honor.
It was. Yeah. And then we went through this pretty brutal tournament, like an hour-long tournament in 3PW, which they were good to me too. And we won them there too. So, yeah, it was Jasmine St. Clair. It was Todd Gordon, Blue Meanie. Like they ran that one, and they were very, very good to me. So. Yeah, good
What
people.
did you think, like, when you're going to be, with the male wrestling, male wrestlers? Because that was, nowadays there's so much intergender wrestling. Back then, not so much. Hardly ever really did they do stuff
Hmm.
like that. What did you think? Like, wow, this is something different, but I'm ready for it.
Well, you got to remember, I trained with all guys. So
True.
I
Yeah.
actually felt more comfortable and safer working with the guys because that's how I trained. Like it was always me versus a guy. So when I get it, always felt like at that point, now the women have come very far since then, but at that point, the men were better trained. Their bumps were crisper. They took it more seriously. They seemed to be more careful. Not always, but mostly as a whole. Whereas the women, at that particular time, if they were any good, they were getting signed up pretty quickly. So the girls that were left on the indies were kind of shite, I guess. Um, like I was being thrown in the ring with some dude's girlfriend who had been training for 2 months because they didn't want to pay for two women. So I'm in there with, Muffy over here, it's this dude's girl who started training, last Tuesday, and we're supposed to have a match.
Not fair
And
to you, yeah.
well, I was not bad at that time, but I was not good enough to lead somebody that green. And let me tell you, when girls panic and they're new in the ring and they're thrown into the spotlight like that and they don't know what they're doing, they flail. They flail and they punch you in the face and they break your nose or they drop. I had a girl drop a knee. She lost where she was in the match. She's holding my arm. I'm on the mat. She dropped a knee on the back of my elbow and broke my shit because she lost where she was. I was just like, take it home, take it home, take it home, take it home, take it home right now. Take it home. Just pin me. I'm not getting up. Like, this is what happens when you work with girls that aren't trained. They, what I mean? And the promoters don't care. They don't care. They just know they're saving money not having to, Do you think at any point ever that somebody flew in cheerleader Melissa from the West Coast to work me? That match never happened, even though the fans asked for it a million times. Never happened. Never happened. Did they fly in AJ Styles or Christopher Daniels from the West Coast to work AJ Styles? It was a program.
Right. True. I guess you never got to wrestle ever, cheerleader Melissa?
Huh?
You never got to work cheerleader Melissa?
Never.
Oh.
Yep.
You got screwed. She's a good one, or was a good one.
I know she is. She is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got to work some good ones because they were location friendly. Like Martinez.
Mercedes Martinez.
Thank you. I know her real name. Like Jazz. Yeah. Mercedes. Lacey, lovely Lacey. Like these girls are very, very good, but they were also convenient. So if they weren't convenient, I wouldn't have gotten to work with them. So, the Canadians are always good, especially the Toronto girls. So the Ron Hutchinson girls.
Yes. Yep. Angelina.
Those girls
Tracy
were great.
Brooke.
Yep. Yeah. Danya. I worked Gail Kim. All those girls were good. So.
As far as kind of what you were doing after that, what do you do? Is that when WEW starts and the Carmen Electra League and all? Is that what kind of happens after or as you're going through the indies?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Like, where did you go after that? WEW? Like, didn't Carmen Electra have her own promotion for a little bit?
Oh, yeah. The Carmen Electra thing. That was actually a one-time thing. That was a one-time match that paid better than anything I'd ever done before. Because I just kept saying no to it. Because it was just, I'm like, I've worked really hard to be taken seriously. I'm not going to do a naked wrestling match.
Right.
And then they just kept going, and I think they went up to damn near $15,000 for one match. And I was like,
hard to turn down.
I could pay off my credit card with that. Yeah, I'll get naked. Yeah. And it's a free trip to Ontario. Oh, wait. And you're going to put us in Maxim magazine too? Yeah, I'm all right with that. So, but yeah, I ended up caving because of that. And it was just, I ended up being really glad that I did because I met a lot of really cool people. I worked with Ron Hutchinson. I had a good time. the match was shit because the night before we did a run through and my nose got severely broken on just a run through to the point where I had to go to the hospital. So I know about Canadian healthcare. And it was actually had a better time with the Canadian healthcare than the healthcare in Boston when John Walters broke my nose. But I couldn't do much for the match. So we ended up kind of having a ha-ha whatever match that day. But they still paid me.
Carmen Electra, was she trying to like dip her toe into wrestling for some reason, or was that just like the?
No.
Okay, because there was a rumor that WCW was interested in her, like I guess it was 99, 2000 era that she was thinking about joining, but I was like, I don't know, she doesn't seem like she'd be too into wrestling,
I don't know. She's really tiny, like she's this big. No, I think they were just using her name. She was lending her name to the product, and using her presence to get it known, which it worked.
And you did work for TNA, right? Weren't you a part of Miss TNA for a little bit? You wrestled Bruce. Any thought of
I was actually I was the first female wrestler they ever had.
Yes, right. You were part of the first show, right? That they did when they had, I guess it was like the Battle Royal.
No,
the old woman. Were you? Oh, you weren't in the Battle Royal?
No. They were going for a little while. They just didn't want to have any female wrestlers on the show at all, and they did the whole Bruce character. And I knew Jeff Jarrett from NWO, and he brought me in to test out the female wrestler thing and see how it would go over with the crowd. So,
no contract.
But yeah, I worked. No, I worked for them a couple of times. The last time I worked for them was a New Year's Eve special. They did offer me a contract with that, but the money was horrific. Like I could make more sitting at home. Like it was bad. And they also wanted me to get cleared by my doctor, and I would have to do all that on my own to wrestle and sign a waiver saying that if anything happened, they would not be financially responsible for it in the ring. Medical.
That stinks all the way around.
Yeah. So a couple $100 a show. They were like $250, $300 a show. Then they also own your name. And if you get hurt, it's on you. You pay for it.
Oh man.
For a minute, I thought about it. And my then husband goes, "Are you nuts? Are you nuts? The medical bills in this country, you do something." He goes, "And you're $20,000 right there." He goes, "Why would you even think about that?" And he goes, "You know how they push you to do more in the ring?" Because they do. They push you to do more in the ring than you're comfortable with. I'm like, So I turn it down.
When you first were there, was there a long-term plan with the Bruce thing, or that was just like let's dip our toe in the water, see if we could do this, and we're going to move on.
Yeah, I don't know what their plan was with it. For me, it was just come in and see how it went. So, yeah, they were doing the $10 weekly pay-per-views at that point in Tennessee.
Yep, down in Nashville at the Asylum. It was kind of weird though. Bruce was like, I guess I know Alan Funk, but it was more of a gimmicky kind of jokey thing. He's wrestling women. He's Miss TNA. It's like a rib kind of. I mean, it was a different kind of thing than just women's wrestling. I don't know. It was kind of too jokey, I guess, for my liking.
It was a gimmick, right?
Yeah.
So
with you and wrestling, what do you think about today's wrestling, today's women's wrestling? Because they always say women's revolution. This is the best age for women's wrestling. What do you think about it? Because you're one of the women that kind of laid the groundwork and maybe not getting the credit you deserve for what they have today.
Thank you. I think the only reason it changed now is because a lot of the guys running it have their daughters in it or their nieces. So I think it would still be what it was if they didn't directly have their kin in there. Now that they have a vested interest in it becoming something more legit, it's now more legit. So I can't see Ric Flair letting his daughter do pillow fights and having her head dunked in dung and doing the stuff that we were subjected to. So
true. And Triple H, who is a big proponent of women wrestling, all daughters, 3 daughters. He doesn't have any, male kids or any boys. So that definitely plays a factor because he's bringing in these musical, like Poppy and all these random musical a guest that his daughters like. So it's just like he's definitely influenced by his kids.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, my dad used to say that. He used to say that men have to be careful because the more of a player, the more of an asshole they are, the more chances, the more daughters they're going to have, and the more beautiful they're going to be. So,
Oh damn,
if
yeah,
you get all daughters and they're all super hot, that is your karma.
damn.
Yeah.
Triple H better watch out when his kids grow up.
I'm not saying that about him. I don't.
No, I know.
I actually, the few times I've met Hunter, he's always been really great to me. So, but there are some guys out there that deserve to have really beautiful daughters. Let's just say. So,
But that
But
is
yeah, I
true
do- I
though. But the daughters
I do.
like taking an influence on the wrestlers, no doubt about it.
Yeah, if you look at the roster of females, and even the ones you don't think are related, there's a lot of relations in there. They might be cousins or nephews, or sorry, not nephews, nieces, or something like that. But about probably 40 to 50% of them have some kind of relation in there. I think it's pretty high. So I think that's why that's what changed women's wrestling. So nobody wanted to see them doing the TNA crap anymore. We never wanted to do it either. We trained like the guys. We trained with the guys. We didn't want to do that crap. Nobody wanted to do that. That's what we were relegated to. And that's what, put food on the table. We wanted to do what they were doing now. And when we got an opportunity to do it, like in Japan, where porn is on every corner and they can buy schoolgirl panties everywhere. And if they're paying for a wrestling ticket, they want to see actual wrestling. That's why we went to Japan, to actually wrestle.
They take it very seriously over there. It's a sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's covered in the papers and everything. I mean, it's a sport over there.
Mexico too, yeah. That's why I worked out of the States a lot. It's different outside of here. We're such a puritanical nation that our acceptable porn it's thinly veiled as Hooters girls and swimsuit issues of Sports Illustrated, and wrestling, female wrestling. So it's like if you allow people to have their freaky ass porn, then this stuff over here can be real. So we can stop fetishizing, wrestling and let women do their thing.
Yes. With, the women's wrestling where it is today, do you follow though? Do you watch it? Do you pay attention to it or no?
No. I don't
Not
actually. I've caught it, here and there. I've caught a match, or I've watched somebody, or I've watched somebody because somebody recommended I watch them and recommended them to somebody else. Like occasionally, I used to do some talent scouting for various places or Shine or whatever. Different, they would ask me, watch this person. What do you think of them? Or what do you know about them? Or are they a problem in the locker room or things like that? Other than that, I don't really do it because there's only so much time in the day and I work a lot. I just got my degree 2 years ago. I'm writing a screenplay. I have a children's book coming out. I have several sites that I still run because they're still making money. I have a candle and soap business on Etsy. I've got a lot going on. So watching 2 hours of wrestling is 2 hours. That's 2 hours of my life I can't get back that could be spent doing something else.
Right. Not happening.
So.
Waste.
And I don't mean that with disrespect. I just mean that that's personally, like, I don't have that time. So wish I did.
Right. Hey, you're making money. You're keeping very, very busy.
Trying to.
So you've done movies, acting, TV. Was that all like a part of your plan? Like, did you always want to kind of get into like that field? Like, did you always want to be kind of like an actress and do the cosplay stuff? Did you always want to do that?
Yeah. Kind of stuff? I've been doing, we call it costuming. I've been doing costuming for a very long time. I used to be a burlesque dancer, and I did all my burlesque in theme costumes. When Tomb Raider first came out, I was Lara Croft a lot. I mean, they didn't have, and my God, they could have picked a better name than cosplay. It's so awful. But they didn't have a name for it back then. But I used to I would do a lot of the conventions in Vegas because I lived out there. So I was like a convention girl. And I would show up and work the booths and do it in costumes. So I would be, Lara Croft, or I would be Jessica Rabbit or whatever. And that was just, it was just something I always did because I liked it. It's funny to me to see that there are kids out there now that want to grow up and be a cosplayer. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a career thing now? I guess a career thing now. So I guess it is a career thing now. I made a career out of it. So, hey, but yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it is because I've seen ex-WWE girls like that literally don't wrestle or whatever. They do cosplay. I was like, that's an
Yeah.
interesting thing. Like that's like their not their main job, but like seems like that's their focus. They want to do
Yeah.
cosplay and modeling and that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Right. If you can do it, people, honestly, if you can make a living off your looks, if people will pay you to look good and you will make a living off your looks, there are so few people that can actually do it. Do it, because you can't do it forever. Treat it like a football career. Do it. Be careful with your money. Buy real estate, because people aren't going to stop having babies, obviously. Don't believe what Reuters say about the birth rate being low. Everybody has a baby now. Get some real estate because we're not making any more land, but we are making more babies. And just be careful with that money and milk it for all it's worth. But no, I didn't want to. I didn't want to be. I wasn't big into being an actress or stuff. Like that kind of stuff just kind of fell in my lap, and I was like, I'll give it a try. So yeah, that wasn't my goal.
So as we hit the wind down, head towards the finish here, you've done so much in your career. I mean, obviously, we were talking about a lot of the wrestling stuff. Do you have favorite matches and opponents? I know we talked a little bit about that, but I always like to ask. It's like a generic question, but I'm just always curious. Like, favorites stick out? Is there people you liked working? Is there some favorite like opponents? Just anything as far as wrestling being, top of your list as favorites.
Oh, I worked. So some of these. A lot of them are overseas. Like I worked a girl named Vesna Busick over in Germany, which she might be known to some of your watchers. Lovely Lacey. I always liked working with her. I liked working. What was her name in Ring of Honor? Oh, it was Omen Tortuga and tag team. Nikki Rocks and I worked them, and I worked them also in a tag team with Wagner. Was it DRS? No, it wasn't Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It was Omen Tortuga and his partner. I liked working them. They were super easy to work, super fun guys. Just whenever I saw us against each other on the thing, I was like, oh, it's going to be a good night. So we'd have fun. Like we'd wrestle, and then we'd also have chicken fights in the ring. So it would be fun. I liked working a girl named Leona in Japan. We had some good matches. I'm trying to think. Those are the ones that stand out to me. Usually it's stuff that I like. It's not what other people like. So, I had fun working with Talia too. Velvet Sky. We did a tag team called TNA it was like pre-Beautiful People. We were doing that gimmick, and it was kind of we were taking the piss on the Diva Search girls kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So our whole gimmick was to take all of that, but actually kind of twist it up and have real wrestling with it. So we had fun with that.
As far as you and kind of where you want to be, where do you see yourself in a few years? I know you're so busy. Do you see yourself dominating the podcasting world, or kind of where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be in a few years?
That is a good question. I always consider myself a humanitarian and a communicator. So I think whatever I end up doing, it will be hopefully keeping to truths and giving back to people. Or helping in some way and communicating. So whether that's writing or on a podcast or however, I don't know. But I feel like in some way, shape, or form, I'll still be in entertainment. It might be on the other end of the camera or writing for it. I don't know. But that's what my degree is for. But I'm not sure.
When is the book out?
The book, we just got done the illustrations. So So I was looking to see if I have anything around here to show you. We just got done the illustrations. We just have a few more tweaks to do, and hopefully it will be done and ready for the Christmas buying season.
Oh, nice, nice. What is the genre of the book, if you're allowed to say?
This one is a children's book. So
Oh, strictly children. Okay.
yeah, I've written a few. This one's a children's book. So it's called The Tale of No Tail, Monty. So it's a story based on The Ugly Duckling. It's about a corgi who tries to find his way. So apparently without a tail and with those short little legs, he is considered ugly until he finds his way in the world. So
All right, that's pretty good though. I like that. Oh, it should be pretty popular, especially around Christmas time. People are always looking for gifts for the kids. Yeah, for sure. Now, as far as some plugs and everything out there, the A Show, your Patreon, your social media, give everybody all your plugs.
oh boy. Okay. So here we go. If you're into organic soy candles and artisan soap, you can find me at April's Sensations on Etsy. You can also support the hell out of me on Patreon, April Hunter, or on OnlyFans, April Hunter. And no, don't get excited because it's not porn, but it is over 18. They both are. Let's see. You can support our show, which is a lot more of what you're seeing here. So it's a lot of, call it real talk, with Aaron Stevens and I, and that is The A Show, and that's Patreon, The A Show, or twitch.tv, The A Show. And then you can kind of find me out there, out and about. It's usually April Hunter or Real April Hunter. Like Instagram is Real April Hunter. So follow me, stay in touch with me, and I'm super grateful when people do. I've had a few fans get in touch with me and they're like, yeah, I remember back when you were doing burlesque, or we used to talk all the time on MySpace. And I'm like,
Wow.
and you're still around? Holy shit. So
Yeah,
I'm
MySpace.
super impressed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my fans, and I'm really grateful for the ones that stuck around through all the career changes. Cause it was it started out like I was doing adult modeling first, not porn, but nude modeling and like Playboy and stuff like that. And then it was fitness, like Metrics and all of Muscle Mag. And then it was WCW. And then it was, I've just gone through all these different changes, and and writing and reading my stuff. And some people are just along for the whole ride. Like they're doing the whole thing. I'm just like, oh my God, you're awesome. So grateful.
Lifelong
Super grateful.
fans. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So,
But April, I'd like to thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on for so long. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it back. So
thank you again. I really appreciate it. And you have yourself a great night.
thanks.